So for our first interview, we have Eyre, who's running for the Makawao-Haʻikū-Pāʻia County Council seat. Again, as I just mentioned a little while ago, these elections for the county council are island-wide, so all those in Maui County can vote and participate in this way. So with that, again, welcome, Eyre, and if you just want to say hi to everyone, and we'll start our interview.
Sure. Hi. I appreciate you guys holding these interviews and the hours and hours of dedication it's taken from you. So I appreciate that. And again, my name is Eyre. It's like the Steely Dan album, which dates, you know how old I am immediately if you're a Steely Dan fan. And the last name's Eyre. And I'm running for Makawao-Pāʻia and Haiku. But of course, it would be on the county council for the entire county. So looking for votes from the entire county, all of our islands.
So Eyre, as far as our first question then, really what motivated you to take this step? I mean, you know, you're running against an incumbent. You are obviously have some things that you feel passionate about, right, because it takes a great level of internal strength and dedication and focus to say, okay, I am running for a county council seat. So thank you for doing that. And could you just give a little? I
love that question because it almost answers itself. I always watch who's running for our state and our local seats, and I watch that as soon as the candidate filing window opens. I want to see who's running. I want to see who I can get behind. I want to learn as much as I can. I have a lot of places that I'm involved with in the community. And so I like to start discussions about this. I like getting, the older ladies that I volunteer with, I like to get their discussion. I like to just have a conversation and not do it 2 weeks before election. I like to see what unfolds. And so when I was watching this year, I was worried because there were so many people running unopposed. And that is kind of the crux of my passion is choice in voting and civic engagement. And I have to say, in our last election, we had a bumper crop of people running for the seats, and I thought that was really fabulous. And I wish that my seat. I mean, I don't wish this, but it would have been a little easier to throw in earlier if Mike wasn't a very nice, easy person. He's kind of always neutral. He doesn't ruffle anyone's feathers. And so there's not this big parade of people that are out there trying to get him out of office. And I kind of wonder if that complacency is what was left when we were getting to the end of the candidate filing window and no one was running against him. And I did work with a bunch of community leaders here in my area. I talked with people who have run before, and it was very difficult to convince anyone to run. And we could get into that later. It has to do with districting. It has to do with how you run for county council member. I'm convinced they're actually it is the hardest election to run in this state because you are campaigning for an entire county, and the only other person that does that is the mayor.
I agree that it is a very, very challenging seat, and thank you for really having someone to oppose Mike Molina is again a statement in our community that we want to have a look at a wide range of options and possibilities.
Right.
And so I understand your passion about wanting to run in that way. Is there a specific platform issue, something that specifically now motivates you as you move forward?
Of course. And I guess I just bring that up for running because what's the difference between civic involvement where I'm doing my other things that I normally do, which is sitting on boards and, being an action maker? What's the difference between running and that's getting those platforms really spoken to on a wider level. And I've had a lot of frustrations with a lot of the nonprofits I work with in getting our voices heard on the county level. I have a lot of passion about amending our structure in the county, about getting and making it easier for civic involvement, making sure that issues are heard and acted upon in a timely manner. Things, especially dealing with the environment, do not need to be talked about for 12 years before action is taken. Things like the injection wells do not need to be on the radar for 14 years before things happen. And so it's those frustrations. And I wish it wasn't. I wish that I was coming to this race like it's just going to be so fun and it's going to be great, but it's actually from a level of frustration of feeling like we just work too slow. And we have a county that we can be a leader for the entire country, if not the world, in repairing our economy, in being a better steward for our environment, and really watching over the health and lifestyle of the people who live here. And we fall short on that. And I just got tired of hearing people say that they were making a difference and things just don't change.
So, so if I could just be a little bit more specific in the question, then is if you were to look at then out of all the different initiatives that are happening, especially as we look in this post-pandemic realm,
Right.
What is the thing that you would personally prioritize and say, you know what, I'm very passionate about this. I really want to see something happen in a positive, uplifting way, and give a vision.
Yeah. So they do kind of encapsulate each other, but I feel like I have the ability and the gumption to help diversify our economy. And they've been talking about this for years. I mean, for decades. And we do not make headway on it. We are not a pro-agriculture county. We are a pro-big agriculture county, but we are not a pro-small farmer county. I have been a small farmer. We do not take the steps to help our small farmers. We're also not a pro-small business county. So we send so much of our money offshore because we cannot support small businesses here as a county. And there's not a lot a government can do to invent small businesses that are successful, but we don't support them. It's not like we need to wave our magic wand and make small businesses. We actually, as a county government, need to support small businesses. And so to hear council members saying they're trying to diversify our economy, I don't see that happening. I don't think we can be diversified without being pro small agriculture or small business.
Thank you for that. And it certainly does, I think, point out the way this county has been run for such a long time, and that that type of support certainly would be welcomed. Sylvia, you want to take up the next question, and then Daniel after that, and then we'll go to Jason.
Aloha. Asia, it's so great to see you. I've seen you around the neighborhood, but I had no idea that you even followed politics. So it's so great to see your face here. And one question I was thinking of as you were talking was, what does home rule mean to you? That's a term that's been coming up a lot lately.
Actually, Obama, I don't know how many of you guys were able to read President Obama's, or previous President Obama's article that he wrote for medium.com in the wake of the civil unrest and the injustices and the protesting. But I loved it because his last paragraph focused on that local rule. And he said that local and state governments are where we can make change. And that's where we can actually have influence. And that's where righteousness can really prevail. That's where we can be the most pono, and that's where we can make a difference. And I think that over the last 4 years, we have had too many of our people's attention turned to the federal government, which is a circus, and it has nothing to do with what we're doing. And I feel like we need to all refocus. We need to make sure that our county maintains control. We need to make sure that the state is not overreaching, especially when it comes to Hawaiian lands and a lot of the concerns that we've seen on the Big Island too, with the state overreaching. We need to continually pull back and make sure that we have local control over as much as we can, our tax dollars, our regulations, and that people pay attention to it. I think that it's bothered me for so long that we have such a low voter turnout. And we've kind of lost that spirit of thinking that we can make change. And that's where it's rolling. When we have more people involved, then we make more change and we have more home rule. And then when we have more home rule, then people feel like being involved is, has positive push.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Asia. And along those lines, what happened with the injection wells issue is that we sent this to the Supreme Court to decide whether we want to save our reef from pollution. I mean, how can we now take that matter into our own hands?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that environmentalism is, I always wonder why it's an issue, because I feel like it should be a foundation of government. I don't understand why we bicker about what things should be done for the environment. And the injection wells is just an outrageous, there's so many layers on why this was just an egregious thing that was happening. And having to take it to the Supreme Court. If we had kept it here, we could have addressed it much more quickly, and we would have had more funds to do it. And bickering and arguing about something that is obviously wrong and shouldn't be happening is, again, it's a systemic problem that you cannot keep electing the same people into office and expect that things like that are not going to change. I mean, that things are going to change.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that answer. Robin Knox is a clean water specialist living on Maui, and she suggests that we go back to forming a community working group comprised of specialists from all areas of government and public works and so on. And I don't know how to turn that into a question, but I want to keep putting that idea out there. And so you can respond to that.
Well, no, I think that it doesn't just, that doesn't affect just things like our wastewater, but we have water issues on Maui with EMI and, access to water. We have issues with our utilities. But it's not because we don't have talented and intelligent and well-meaning people on the island. It's just we don't have venues for them to get together and find the solutions. And so that's something that should have happened right immediately with the wastewater injection wells. We have other parts of the island that are still polluting the water. Those things need to be taken care of. And so, yeah, getting this kind of public-private community partnership that addresses those problems instead of the county just saying, we don't know how to fix it and we don't have the money. And, that's not an action. That's just a washing their hands. So.
Thank you, Asia Eyre. I'm going to turn you to the next questioner.
Yeah.
Paul, who's up next?
If that would be Daniel, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Am I coming in clear?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Aloha, Asia. Thank you for showing up. We've been having a lot of fun with these interviews, so it's great to get a feel for yourself and why you decide to run and your wisdom. So I'm going to start with this one question, and then we have more. Let's see. As a public representative, it is a duty to face the truth and to act righteously. These islands reflect the lowest voter turnout in the United States. On May 15th, 2019, Dr. David Kianusai gave a presentation to the Maui County Council, evidencing the illegal overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani in 1893 and showing clear violation of domestic and international law with the ongoing illegal United States military occupation of the Kingdom of the Hawaiian Islands. As a candidate for public representation, how do you rectify handling the truth of Dr. Sai's presentation, as well as the works of the Ko-Hawaii-Paʻia office in Hilo, Keeaumokukapu, Henry Noah, Amelia Gora, Pampikana Hele, Leon Su, Dr. Josias, Madame Ruth Bolame, etc.? How do you rectify the compliance of the law and restoration of occupied lands?
That's a great question and very, there's lots of levels on that one. First of all, if there's anyone out there who hasn't watched Dr. Sai's video or, video of when he spoke to the council, I hope that they do. Because it's, a lot of times we are unafraid to face the pain of dealing with past wrongs. We're so afraid of how uncomfortable it can be to deal with that. But I also just like his approach because he takes it as a very, a legal, somewhat objective, we have legal issues here and how can we address these? I can't really speak to what the rectification of that would be. I think we get into a little bit of a, I don't know what you would call it, like a black hole, because if the state is deemed, what would you say? If they're deemed that they are illegitimate, then they don't have the ability to make rectification. And so you kind of have this, right, this balance of who is the legal authority that can address that? And it's probably with the state and the US federal government, and looking of ways of rectification of the, the illegitimacy and the legal problems with that. I think as a county, though, what we can do is push education and push awareness. I love that Tamara had him come in. This would be a great thing to do on an annual basis, to get get some sort of update on what's going on, where they are legally, how the community feels about that. And I think Dr. Tsai also just really pushes education and awareness. And I appreciate that. I think he recognizes too that there isn't a clear path forward. We don't really see this, oh, this is exactly what we should do at this point. I don't think anyone in the indigenous rights community, in the government, says this is the clear path, but we first need to definitely educate the populace and the lawmakers on what the issues are. And again, you brought up low voter turnout, and I think that the annexation or the overthrow of the monarchy was kind of the beginning of low voter turnout, because you immediately said, we don't care what you think, and that is what prevails. I can't make a difference, and no one cares what I think anyway. And you have to sit and listen to people who are well educated, who spend their lives for these causes, and listen to what they have to say and try to find a way through that, and find a way that does, that addresses the actual issue.
All right. Okay, mahalo, Asia. I'm going to pass the question, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, Jason, if you're there, if you can unmute.
Aloha. Hi, Asia. Aloha. How are you?
Hello, I'm great, thanks.
I don't know if we've met. I have been around here so long, my beard has gotten gray.
Yes.
Years ago, I ran as a candidate, and I found that it is a thankless job. And what made you decide to throw your hat into the ring? It was the fact that nobody was running against Mike, and you wanted to have someone stand up and create a system of choice here?
Yes. If I didn't have strong opinions about what we could be doing with the structure in the county, and how we can reduce waste, and how we can diversify our economy, and one of my friends, when I went to her to get her signature for my nomination paper, she lives down in Haiku, and her name's Malia, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing, Malia. I've had a lot of people come to me after I've asked them to help out with this, and here I am. And she said, I can't think of someone that is more of an advocate for just causes than you are. And I have never really saw myself that way. I feel like I work tirelessly. I'm a lot of times a very grassroots, kind of behind the scenes. I work a lot with the youth here in the island. And I'd never really seen myself that way, but I realized that that's what's driving me, is I want to be an advocate for just causes. And I want to make sure that we are, we're addressing the actual issues, and we're doing it in a timely manner, and that we're not wasteful with our resources, not wasteful with our natural resources. We're not wasteful with our financial resources as a county. And, I have 5 children, so I'm very forward looking. What is the future going to look like for my children? What things are we leaving behind for them?
You have 5 children now?
I have 5 children. Yes, I do. My oldest just graduated from King Kekalike, and my youngest is a kindergartner. So I've got full gamut. I've got all ages right now, except no baby, thankfully, no baby.
And how do you, that sounds like a full-time job. So if you were on council, they would be your staff, it sounds like.
They would be my staff. No, no, I'm not. I wouldn't do that. I think if, I don't know if anyone else has a large family, but, oh, Jason, I'm getting some fingers pointed that you have a large family, but I'm going to have 4 children at home next year. So I'm feeling like, man, the world is my oyster. I'm going to have so much time because I'm only going to have 4 children at home. And not only that, if school goes back in session, I'll have no kids at home. I had one child homeschooled co-homeschooled with, she was enrolled at Kona Okaaina, which is a Hawaiian immersion school out of Molokai, which she was at home, but she's going to Kalama. So I've got loads of time. And if you want something done, ask someone who's busy, because.
So you're working as well as raising 5 kids.
Yes, and I've always worked from home. I base from home. I'm a small business consultant. I also do, in my consultancy, I do a lot of education editing. So I'll do curriculum editing, things that I can handle from home, but then I do go out and meet with clients during the day when my kids are at school.
So when you're talking about, for example, wanting the county to be helping small businesses, do you have any specific stuff in mind?
Right. Well, first of all, we do not help educate small business owners. Our small business help center is not well staffed. A lot of my small businesses that I consult have a difficulty with compliance with the law and with the tax laws here. It's very complicated. It's very difficult. If you're doing anything that requires licensing, you're treated like a criminal just because you want to get a license. We are not business friendly in that way. And I'm not saying that we need to just be corporate friendly. I'm saying we need to be small business friendly, because that's
the reason I'm asking my questions in this way.
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm going to create a little scenario. Poof, you're on council.
Yeah.
You know, that seat has its restrictions on what you can do. Right. I mean, I've spoken to prison council people that came in. There's an expression that goes, it's difficult to remember that your original intention was to drain the swamp when you're up to your ass in alligators. So here you are, you're now in council seat, right, and you want to help small businesses. So, I mean, when you say you want to help small businesses, I'm just looking for some specifics, really.
Okay, so first of all, we need to look at tax reform. We need to look at where the county is taxing small businesses. If I were running for state office, this would be my #1 platform, because the state is really what taxes the small businesses. But we need to look at who we are getting in as directors in the county's departments, because they have a lot of sway over the licensing for small businesses. They have a lot of sway over permits. They have a lot of sway over zoning. And we need to just kind of change our mindset that we cannot continue to just ignore small businesses or make their lives so difficult that they don't want to continue. And
you are not getting that right now from these council people. That's why I'm asking. In other words,
I don't feel that way. No, I think they talk about it, but I haven't seen any positive change.
Well, and I guess I'm trying to say, I'm also, like you, an advocate for a lot of good things. But when running for council, like I almost ran the last time, but I thought, what do I specifically want to do on council? What kind of policy changes could I see? Like someone today was talking to me about the charter amendment about a county manager. Like that might be an issue to talk about, you know, something. But when
I would love to talk about that. And I'd also love to talk about just how we get away from tourism, how we help, what the
We're
county
away from tourism now.
It was perfect. Look what happened. No.
We also have 18,000 rental cars sitting and you know, a lot of people say we don't want to go back to that. But again, we have all these people that are unemployed, and I'm also an advocate for wanting to diversify our economy, but it's like a lot of those things take a leader that has money, an idea, some way of feeding it back into the community. Do you have any? That's why I'm kind of reaching for you to kind of put something out there that you'd like to make change. Like when you're talking about the small businesses and seeing change, you're talking about ag and helping small farmers. In what way? And what can we do that you think we could do on council that you'd like to initiate?
Yeah, so does someone else want to continue his question? Because I think our time's up, but
Yeah,
I do want to speak to that.
So why don't you finish that, and then we'll move on to the next question
Okay.
from our other interviewers. Okay.
So with agriculture, I can speak to small business. It's true, there's not a lot the county can do, but we can at least lessen the licensing issues, making things quicker, cleaner, easier to understand, educating our people that are small business owners, reaching out to them and seeing what they want to change. As far as agriculture goes, though, there are definite things that the county can do. We need to get our water situation figured out. We need to figure out who is going to have the say in EMI. Where does that water go? Is everyone getting what they need? The county needs to take leadership in the EMI issue. We need to find ways to make land more accessible to small farmers. It's just priced out. It's very difficult to get onto good farming land here. I don't think the county needs to come and take control over land, but we definitely need to find incentives. We need to educate small farmers, and that might need to be through a county department that is just over agriculture, so that when someone does need to purchase 5 acres, they can go get a federal loan. They're able to do that. That agricultural land is kept at a lower price than, real estate. It's considered something that can kind of continue in perpetuity as agricultural land that is at a lower cost. There are some bills that we could put forth to protect our agricultural land. I do know a lot of residents are struggling right now because in the last year, the county's tried to come down on the agriculture taxes so that if your property is considered ag land, you have to actually be selling. It can't be just left wild and free. You actually have to have some agriculture on there. And that is, there is a balance between there. You don't want to infringe on property rights, and you do want to allow local families to farm their land to sustain their own families. So you don't want to say you have to be selling the things that you make. You have to have something. You can't have a horse. A horse doesn't count as agriculture. I mean, these are the things that the county is saying when they're trying to enforce this. But we do want to encourage people to actually use their land to produce, so that you're not sitting on 3 acres of beautiful, well-draining, rich soil, and you're not doing anything with it when there are people just dying to get on that land.
And the only reason you got your ag designation was because you said you were going to be producing a crop. And that's what they're saying. They want output. They don't want to just have you say it so your taxes are reduced, but you're not delivering.
Right. They want a Schedule F, and they want those things. But we do, you do have to watch that, because it would mean that my family, I'm not on ag land, but if I have owned farms before, and if I'm only producing food for my own family, if I have a multi-generational family living with me, I would have to pay those higher taxes, even though I am growing and providing food for members of the community. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Aja. And certainly it is a conundrum that we're facing as a community right now. And one aspect that you already just mentioned is about the water. Yeah. Certainly, those who control water access and distribution control the way our island gets developed, the types of crops we grow, and where we can grow the crops.
Right.
So would you support the county asserting eminent domain over the EMI system in order to administer the public trust water resources for the food security necessary for our community?
That's a hard one, because I would love to see public control over the waterways, since none of us should be owning water, and it should be, up to the decision of the community and the wider public as to where that water goes. However, the EMI system is so immense and complicated. I wonder if the county has the capability or the funds to take care of it well. I hate to say that. I mean, I'm running for something, and I'm already putting distrust about it. But I wonder if there's kind of an in between, where EMI had a board that actually had power, that was a community board that had decision-making power within it. If that could be the compromise in there, where we're allowing a company that has actually done a corporation that's done a pretty good job of keeping the irrigation functioning. If we somehow
if I
keep
could
them
just follow up
involved,
with that,
but
if I
don't
could
let
just,
them make decisions.
so if I could just follow up with that just a little bit more,
Mhm.
then in terms of then having EMI maintain or utilize their expertise, but
Mhm.
we certainly need some type of system process we do favor then community owned and driven so that it's like a cooperative or.
Yeah, and that would be really interesting. That again, like what Sylvia said, that would be interesting to get some of our best minds together and look at how we could, make a legal functioning cooperative. In fact, that's a great idea. Some sort of cooperative instead of looking at the county to run that. Maybe
Okay,
that
so
could be
but again, it's a different option though than having the
Right.
present system of Maui-Pono or a Canadian organization really control and dominate our water system here.
Right. No, we
okay.
definitely need. We need to share it, and we need to make sure that and we need to look out for the environment that the water was taken from as well. And I don't think we're alone. We're not alone in this. This isn't a county of Maui. We're the first people to ever deal with water issues like this. This is a worldwide issue. So there are a lot of resources to look into appropriate, environmentally conscious, small farmer conscious, indigenous people conscious ways to divide up water and to use the engineering marvel that's already there. But definitely we don't want an offshore company having full control or even the majority of the say in that water. I do, I feel very strongly that this is something that needs to be taken care of immediately though. In that if I was elected, I would hope that this is taken care of before I even get in, because asking someone to come and farm A&B's lands and then not giving them a clear understanding of what's going on with the water is very harmful. It's like I've been saying with the COVID-19 thing, I don't care what the plan is at this point, we just need a plan. So, I do care about what the plan is with EMI, but having no plan is really the worst course of action.
I understand. And so along the same line though, in terms of our public utilities, I just want to ask just one more question about then our electricity. And since Maui residents pay the highest electric rates in the nation based on electric being provided by a private corporation, MECO, and Kauai pays the lowest rates in the nation based on electric being provided by a community cooperative. What are your thoughts about supporting efforts to change our electric distribution system from private corporation to publicly owned and operated cooperative?
Yes, please. Please. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. There's a financial hurdle, of course, but there are bonds that we could look at. This is something that I don't think we can look towards 2050 and being energy independent without going this route. I feel like that's the way to do it. We're never going to do those things that are going to make us energy independent if we do not get off of fossil fuels, if we don't look at microgrids, if we don't allow people to farm their own energy and then sell it back into the grid. I don't see MECO as being the very progressive answer in our energy issues. And just as a homeowner, I would love to see those energy rates lower. But as a community member, I would love to put the effort forward to get us going on that path. I haven't really looked at what the current council's feelings are on that, but it is something that needs to be addressed. Again, time is of the essence.
Thank you for that response, Aja. And we have just a little bit more time. We have Carol's waiting here for our next interview. So Sylvia, if you could maybe finish up. Do you have one more question, or does anyone else have a burning question that they would like to ask Aja before we finish our interviews?
Yeah, sure, I can finish up. Just how do you feel about corporate donations to people in office? And how do you plan on funding your campaign? Yeah.
That is a great question, Sylvia, because I came into this with all of my ideas burning and my pages of notes and all of that, and I forgot too much about funding all of the advertising I'm going to have to do to run a county-wide election. But no, I'm looking for personal donations. I've had a lot of people that I've worked with in the community have been willing to help with that. I'm hoping to just have a really strong volunteer base. I think since we're vote by mail this election, it's going to be a little different election than we've had in the past. A lot of my efforts are actually just, I've been working with community members and kind of helping ease them into vote by mail. Because they haven't done it before and they're very nervous about it. So it'll be interesting to see what the voter turnout is. Corporate donations, I would be down with that, but they need to be county based. I get uncomfortable when people are accepting donations from multinational corporations or corporations that are based on the mainland. Even the ones that are based statewide. I'd like to see something like that. I know that I'm not allowed to accept any donations from anyone out of state, but corporations are that's a gray area. So, you know, I'm much more grassroots that way. This is my first election that's not like running for a high school office. So I think I'm going to learn a lot about what it takes, you know, financially to run an election. So if you see my signs out, you'll know that I got some donations and some help. And if they're hand painted, you know, I've put my 5 kids to work. So there we are.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for running and for showing up today for us, Asia Eyre.
So Asia, just along that line also, if you could tell our audience how they can get in touch with you personally, with your more information about your platform and where you're coming from. Also, how they can send donations to support you in your campaign. So if you could just provide all that information for us.
Yeah, of course. My name is Asia Eyre and my website is asiaeyre.com. So it's spelled AJAUIRE.com. You can contact me via email at Asia for Maui, AJAFORMAUI @gmail.com. And you know, there's on the website, there's an address if you'd like to send donations. I'm also looking for volunteer donations, and not in the way you would think, but I love people to just talk to each other about what vote by mail means, about what civic engagement means, and just about doing your research before you vote. Don't just vote for name recognition, but actually look into the candidates and make sure that, you know, their platforms agree with what you'd like to see.